There's a brake on every motorcycle that does almost all the work of keeping you alive. Used right, it stops you from highway speed in the length of a living room. And almost every rider is too scared to use it, because the one time they grab it wrong, it can fling them over the handlebars like a catapult. So they avoid it and reach for the safe brake instead. That single, totally natural choice is one of the most common reasons riders die. By the end of this, you'll know the strange physics that makes the scary brake the safe one, and why your own survival instinct is quietly trying to kill you. You learned this before you ever sat on a motorcycle. You were a kid, on a bicycle, going a little too fast down a hill, and you grabbed the front brake, hard. The back wheel kicked up, the world tilted, and you went straight over the front. Every one of us has some version of that memory, and it burns a rule into your hands that never really leaves. The front brake is the dangerous one. Touch it gently. When things get scary, stay away from it. That instinct feels like wisdom. It feels like the exact thing keeping you alive. And it's backwards. Here's something almost no new rider believes the first time they hear it. On a motorcycle, the front brake doesn't do most of your stopping. It does almost all of it. Somewhere between 70 and 90% of your entire ability to slow down lives in that one lever, your right hand is afraid to squeeze. The back brake, the one your foot trusts, the one that feels safe, is barely helping by comparison. How can that be? How can the brake everyone fears be the one actually saving their life? To see it, you have to watch what happens to a motorcycle in the first half second of braking. Think about what a motorcycle really is. A heavy engine, a frame, and you, all balanced on two patches of rubber, each about the size of a credit card. The instant you brake, all of that weight lunges forward. You felt a gentle version in a car, that pitch forward when someone stops hard. On a bike, it's dramatic. The front dives, the forks compress, and the entire mass of the machine slams down onto the front tire. And here's the magic. A tire's grip depends on how hard it's pressed into the road. Push it down harder and it grips harder. So that forward diving weight is squashing the front tire into the tarmac, handing it enormous grip exactly when you need it. Meanwhile, the back does the opposite. As the weight leaves, the rear tire goes light, and under hard braking, it can lift clean off the ground. So now, the dangerous question. If the back tire has almost no weight on it, what happens the moment you stomp the back brake? A tire with no weight on it has almost nothing holding it to the road, so the instant you press that pedal, the rear wheel doesn't slow the bike, it just locks. And a locked tire isn't braking, it's skidding. A skidding tire has thrown its grip away. It slides like a shoe on ice and actually stops you slower than a rolling one would. Worse, a sliding rear can step out sideways, and if it snaps back into line, it can buck the rider clean off. Riders call that a high side, and it's one of the ugliest crashes there is. So, the safe brake, the gentle one your foot reaches for, is the one that locks first, stops you least, and can throw you off. Which drags us right back to the front brake. If it's so powerful, why does grabbing it send people over the bars? This is the line between riders who stop in time and riders who don't. The front brake doesn't flip you because it's too strong. It flips you when you hit it too suddenly. Here's why. When you brake, the grip doesn't show up instantly. It builds over about half a second as the weight rolls forward onto the front tire. Grab the lever, and you've demanded everything before that grip has arrived, so the wheel locks or the bike pitches over. But squeeze, start soft, then smoothly press harder, and your braking grows at the exact same speed the grip does. You're never asking the tire for more than it can give. Get that timing right, and you can stop shockingly fast, far harder than the rear could ever manage, and the bike just squats down and stops. Racers call it threshold braking, riding right at the edge of grip. It's the most important skill in riding. And it's the exact opposite of what your body wants to do in an emergency. Because here's the cruel part. You can understand all of this perfectly, and then a car pulls out in front of you, and none of it matters. In a true emergency, the thinking part of your brain goes quiet, and an older, more primitive part takes over. That primitive brain doesn't do smooth, progressive squeeze. It does one thing: clench. It stomps the rear into a skid and freezes on the front, either grabbing it into a lock or refusing to touch it at all. That's why real-world stopping distances in a panic are so brutal. It isn't that riders don't know how to stop, it's that, in the one moment it counts, instinct overrides knowledge. For decades, the only answer was, train harder, practice until the squeeze becomes instinct too. Good riders do exactly that. But you can't drill the panic out of everyone. So engineers stopped trying to fix the rider and asked something stranger. Could you build a machine that forgives the panic? One that takes a terrified, clumsy grab and turns it into a perfect stop? For a long time, that sounded impossible. What finally made it possible is a small mechanical marvel that quietly rewired the limits of being human, and it's probably bolted to your motorcycle right now. It's called ABS, an anti-lock braking system, and the idea behind it is beautifully simple. On each wheel sits a ring of fine teeth and a sensor that counts them racing past. That's how the bike knows. Hundreds of times a second, exactly how fast each wheel is turning. Now watch what happens in an emergency. You grab the brake hard. The front wheel starts to slow, but the instant the sensor sees it slowing too fast, about to lock and skid, the system snaps the brake pressure off for a heartbeat, lets the wheel spin back up, then clamps it on again. Off, on, dozens of times a second, far faster than any human hand could react. You feel it as a rapid pulsing in the lever, and every pulse is the machine catching a skid before it can even begin. What that means for you is extraordinary. You can grab the brakes as hard as your terror demands, clench with everything you've got, and the machine simply will not let the wheels lock. It turns the panic grab, the thing that used to kill people, into a controlled maximum force stop. That's why ABS is now legally required on most new motorcycles across Europe, India, and much of the world. And the crash studies aren't subtle. Bikes with ABS suffer dramatically fewer fatal braking crashes. Engineers didn't fix human instinct. They built a machine patient enough to survive it. So go back to that scared kid flying over the bicycle handlebars. The fear was never wrong, exactly, just incomplete. The front brake was never the enemy. Neither were you. The danger always lived in the gap between what the physics needs, a smooth, weighted squeeze, and what fear screams, clench and freeze. Master the squeeze, and you close that gap yourself. Ride a bike with ABS, and engineers close it for you. Either way, the most feared brake on your motorcycle becomes the thing most likely to save your life. Most riders will go their whole lives never understanding this, still babying the front, still trusting the rear, still quietly hoping they never have to find out the hard way. But not you, not anymore. Now, you're the rider who knows which brake to reach for, and exactly why.